Our next question. With Doge's time ending with the federal government, what are you most disappointed about in Doge's short tenure? And what would you have liked to have seen Doge make more differently? And Heather, since you started that Doge conversation, start off.
So this one's in my wheelhouse because I did it at Ford Motor Company globally. So a couple of the key things, and I've actually submitted feedback to the Doge site. They've done a lot of great work. They had some misses, but overall they've done a really great work. But the next step is really institutionalizing those changes and giving transparency, right? If you've ever been to their website, they list a lot of numbers, but it doesn't provide actionable insight. So that's one of the things that, from a Doge perspective, you need to have the aha moment. You need to have the transparency. So I actually did that. So one of the things I want to do is that they actually have a Doge committee at the federal government level. Having me be on that committee, I can institutionalize it. Because right now it's easy to say, oh, here's this shocking number, here's that shocking number. But it's an entirely different thing to institutionalize the change and get the transparency, which we currently don't have. So that's what I would bring to the table.
Ladies and gentlemen, your politicians for far too long prance around our Republican Party meetings to talk about how many bills they pass. Well, that's an establishment Republican talking point. We want to know how much waste, fraud, and abuse in bills that you're killing, because the federal government has run amok in this country. And there's something that's called the 10th Amendment that a lot of our politicians forget about. It's called states' rights. And the left wants to grow the federal government. More workers, more wages, more voters for them. And so your job as a federal congressman is to cut the federal government and to cut the budget. Now, Doge was effective for that short time frame that they had. I wish it continued further. I hear there's still a semblance of it in the administration, but it's not operating at that full prowess like it once was. But we want to see, we're conservatives, we want to see the Department of Education shut down. Yeah. All right?
Yeah.
The Democrats used USAID, USAID, and we're finding out a lot of corruption, spending money, pushing money down, sending it to liberal NGOs, making its way to Democratic politicians and Democratic organizations. So President Trump was 1,000% right when he said that we need to get rid of, as much as possible, USAID and quit sending our hard-earned tax dollars overseas into these Democrat organizations. Anything that Senator Elizabeth Warren purports forward should immediately be voted down. Right? So that Consumer Finance Business Protection Agency that they developed not too long ago, I believe that that shouldn't exist. And so there's a lot of government agencies that, I mean, look, one more I want to mention, the IRS. Obama and President Biden used the IRS to target conservatives, and the people in this room know that. And don't forget when they would send and obviously Biden expanded, I think, about 75,000 employees. Well, you know, we could use 75,000 border agents at the border, right? Yes. And so they went after conservatives. They used IRS agents to harass us, people that were, I came up in the Tea Party movement in Macomb County. They went to people in the Tea Party's homes. They went to pro-lifers. And so they used these government agencies to go after conservatives. So if we get a simpler tax code, we can get rid of a lot of those IRS agents, all right, and hire more law enforcement agents.
So there's two major questions on Doge. But the first thing, I'm going to support President Trump on this, is we got to build, baby, build. We got to grow, we got to build, we got to grow the economy overall. You've got to create growth. If we're going to reduce the debt, we're going to start paying off the debt and actually get this country in a better fiscal position, you've got to have real economic growth. There's two other questions then. One is, what has the Federal Reserve been doing for the last 15 or 20 years, let alone 80 years? What has the Federal Reserve been doing? Printing money like crazy. President Trump has challenged the questions of the Federal Reserve somehow is an independent board that can just print money whenever it wants to, no accountability to our elected officials. I think we've got to change how we're actually going to build this country, who's in control of our credit, who's in control of our currency, and what kind of policies shape that. But the big question on Doge, and this is what Musk and his team couldn't get to, is, and I'm going to say this with a caveat, and I'll put the caveat first. Look, the Pentagon today represents one of the biggest areas of manufacturing support in the United States. We've globalized a lot. We've even globalized our rare earths. People know this. General Motors used to run the rare earth industry in the world. In the 1990s, General Motors owned certain companies that were actually producing the rare earths. The Chinese came through private equity in the United States and bought those out. They had to keep them here for 5 years, and then 5 years later, they shipped all the rare earth processing plants over to China. That used to be General Motors, the auto industry, our productive and industrial bases. And I'm saying that because the Pentagon remains a major part of our manufacturing base in the United States, and that should be supported. It's a big question for people in Congress all the time. But you can't audit the Pentagon? I mean, let's be honest here. There is a lot of bloat. And the new Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, has called these generals to task. These guys themselves look a little bloated, let alone the Pentagon. And so, back to some fitness standards. We got to get back to some fiscal standards. And I put it this way: if you set that standard, that nothing's untouchable in terms of fiscal accountability inside government, and you start with the Pentagon, you're going to have tons of leverage to go from the population to hold the entire government account. Because it's been this kind of bloated forever war policy that people have been really pissed off at for decades. And so I think we've got to get at that. I think that's a big part of what Congress should be doing.
Oh, wow. I don't think I can top all three of those. I think when I knock on doors and hear what people have to say about Doge, they're so happy about it, but they feel like it's running out now. They're worried about that. So I think it's important to institutionalize this into our government and push for it not only in federal government, but for local government, for your condo board association, whatever it is. And even that is being overrun by Democrats, our school boards, our local politics. And they say all politics are local, right? But it's really happening locally. Kind of disappointed that Trump and Musk had a little of a thing that kind of fallen out. I think everyone was so excited about it. They got a lot of criticism for it, but I think the movement is still on, and we're all aware of it, and we're going to push for Doge because there's so much money that's being wasted that can go to so many other things and help so many other people. We can solve a lot of these problems by cutting waste, finding money that's been given away to people that are not even American citizens. It all should stay here in America first. Once we solve the problems here, we can start looking over to solving and helping other countries. But that's it. Thank you.